Welcome to the qualifying review for the 2019 US Grand Prix. Circuit of the Americas, what a track it is. I absolutely love this beast of a circuit, but I don't like only 3 races to go. Very upsetting times, ladies and gents. So we're going to have to milk as much content as we can over the next few weeks. Going into December, I think December 1st is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So we've got just under a month. Yeah, I'm not really helping the situation here, am I? Sorry. Anyway, let's move on to qualifying. Of course, we go through the results, all the times, all the boring stuff, and then we have a real breakdown of the session. And spoiler alert, Valtteri Bottas, your pole sitter. I don't think many people would have been putting money on that this weekend. He's got a lot of pressure riding on him as he tries to wrestle and maintain a potential championship hunt. Don't get me wrong. Hamilton only has to score 4 points in the remaining 3 races to win the championship. So it's a mighty ordeal for Bottas to win it. But he's still trying. He's going to try and wrestle as best a result he can this weekend. And tell you what, I didn't expect him to get pole. And Aldas, love Aldas. Go and watch him if you've never seen Aldas before. He calls Bottas the silent assassin. And I love that. I think that's a perfect nickname for Valtteri. As much as I do love the Porridge Master, Silent Assassin is a perfect example of what he's done this weekend. So Aldas, I might steal that one, mate. Sebastian Vettel, P2. But also, can we just say, the gap between Bottas all the way down to Hamilton, just 3 tenths. Even just the top 4, a tenth in it. Awesome. Verstappen, P3. Charles Leclerc, P4. Hamilton, a distant-ish P5. Alex Albon, almost a regular P6. Carlos Sainz, a regular P7. Likewise with Lando Norris in P8. Daniel Ricciardo, P9. And Pierre Gasly, P10. Second half of the grid and best of the rest, starting on a different strategy. Nico Hülkenberg, not squidging into Q3 this time. I think he's out-qualified Ricciardo for the last 3 races, so that streak comes to an end. However, starting on fresh tyres, we saw in Mexico Sergio Perez make that strategy work really well, so I wouldn't discount Hülkenberg for the race just yet. Kevin Magnussen, a brilliant job from him today, getting his Haas up into P12, was helped by the fact Danny Kvyat, his time was cancelled due to a, how do we say, maybe a bit of a kerfuffle, an altercation with Hamilton and Verstappen. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But Kvyat demoted 2 places because his lap didn't count, down in P13. Lance Stroll getting a bit more consistent with his qualifying now, through to Q3 again. I think he's maybe done it, Q2. Blimey, it's one of those weekends. Lance Stroll through to Q2. He's done it a few occasions of late. Those upgrades on that car seem to be really suiting his driving style. Romain Grosjean, a difficult session for him. Again, the gap in Q2, Hülkenberg down to Grosjean. It's only 3 tenths, so super close session this weekend. Giovinazzi didn't quite make it through in P16, but ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. George Russell, P18, ahead of Sergio Perez, and Robert Kubica, a regular in P20. We'll start from the back, work our way forward. I like doing it that way. We trialled in the race last time, going through team by team. A lot of you quite like that, so I might do that in the race tomorrow. But for today, for quali, we'll just go backwards order. I think I like that one. Robert Kubica, quiet session for him. Not completely miles away this weekend. Fun fact, I believe someone said it was his first ever US Grand Prix, which is a crazy statistic. I honestly can't believe that, but in 2006 he didn't start the season at the very beginning, so missed it. 2007 had his big crash in Canada, so had to miss the US Grand Prix following. And then 2008, 9, 2010, there wasn't a US Grand Prix, so Robert Kubica actually, bizarrely, his first ever US Grand Prix with a lot of the rookies as well. Their first ever trip to COTA, but not a bad session, I would say, from Robert. Sergio Perez, you could say, my God, looking at this face value, behind a Williams? What is he doing? But to be fair to Sergio, he did make a bit of a mistake in practice. Didn't go in on the weighbridge when signalled. We saw this earlier on in the year in Baku. Pierre Gasly, when he was driving for Red Bull, missed the sign to go into the weighbridge, starting from the pit lane, so Perez, a pretty quiet session from him. Likewise with George Russell, not much to report, doing what George Russell does best, ahead of Kubica. But P18, I think he'll be kind of happy with that. I think he'll be more happy that he's starting 1 place behind Kimi Raikkonen. I imagine for someone who's been on a difficult season this year, not through his own ability, but just through an absolute dog of a car, that's a bit of a boost, starting one place behind Kimi Räikkönen. Kimi himself and Giovinazzi, 16th and 17th, not the best day for Alfa Romeo, but I've said I don't think Alfa, Haas as well, I think those two teams are really going to be struggling for the remainder of the season. And where earlier on in the year we saw Renault's dropping out of Q1, Toro Rosso's dropping out of Q1, McLaren's dropping out of Q1. I think for the rest of the season, I mean, there's only 2 more races to go after this. 2 more qualifying sessions, blimey. Oh, that's just dawned on me. Oh dear. I imagine Haas and Alfa will be the ones with Williams fighting to go out in Q1. So not much to report there from those two. Romain Grosjean and actually Kevin Magnussen as well. I might as well talk about both of them. Getting through to Q2, both cars, that's an improvement. That's their home Grand Prix, a circuit where they've never scored points, bizarrely enough. Last year, Kevin Magnussen survived. He actually made it to the end, unlike Romain Grosjean. But I believe was given a bit of a penalty or of a disqualification, so actually lost his points that he scored. So that was a bit of a bummer for the team. Unlikely they'll score this weekend. Grosjean in 15th, struggled with the car, wasn't happy on team radio. He thought in practice 3 he actually had got a strategy or a setup he quite liked, but the team decided not to use the new front wing that they were using in practice. So I'm not too sure quite why they decided to go that route. I'm sure later on in the weekend we'll find out in a few press releases, but seems like an odd route for Haas to go. But hey, results aren't too bad, so they can't be that mad. Splitting the two Haas cars was Lance Stroll, P14. Like I said earlier, getting through to Q2, he'll be happy with that. Starting in front of Sergio Perez, that doesn't happen very often, so I don't think he'll be too disappointed. Not a home Grand Prix for Lance, but pretty close, being a Canadian driver. Pretty close. It's the closest home driver they have. Pretty much, US fans. Sorry if that upsets you. Right, in front of Lance Stroll, Danny Kvyat. I wanted to talk about this. He was on a flying lap almost, or was he backing off? It was all a bit of a mess, to be totally honest with you. I tried to rewatch it in the highlights, and it didn't really show you much more of the incident. Danny Kvyat is on the outside. Hamilton is on a flying lap, or at least closing in on them. Hamilton goes up the inside of Kvyat. Verstappen, even though it seemed to be that lap before they do their flying lap, so they're gearing up, Verstappen was trying to overtake Hamilton. It all seemed very messy. They went 3 wide through the second to last corner. I think you can even understand in my voice. It was just a very bizarre incident. I mean, no penalties have been dished out. I think that's fair enough. I think it's just one of those moments. The drivers can't talk to each other. We've seen in Monza this year, qualifying can be a real farce when you're trying to get the right gap to the car in front. So, a little bit messy. I was a bit confused in what Verstappen was doing, but I don't think the cam was picked up early enough for us all to really understand what was going on. And we didn't see onboards from the likes of Danny Kvyat. We don't know what he was doing, so I don't want to put blame anywhere, because it was just a bit of a mess. Come on, boys. We can do better than that. In front of Kvyat, Kevin Magnussen, we had a little bit of a chat about him. Nico Hülkenberg. Good session, I would say. Again, not in front of Ricciardo this time round. That little streak comes to an end, but we've seen many times, and I'm so glad they're scrapping this rule for next year. Well, yeah, they are, aren't they? Yeah, I'm so glad they're scrapping this rule. Starting P11 usually means you're going to be in the fight with P7. It's a better strategy, 9 times out of 10 to go on. I don't like it. It's something that I saw firsthand with the Haas team last year. They would do really well in quali, maybe 8th and 9th, but because they weren't starting on those tyres that they wanted to, would end up 15th, 16th. We saw it with Carlos Sainz last time. Qualified P7, ended P13 just because of that starting strategy he was on. So I think Hülkenberg's in a good position here. Magnussen behind doesn't necessarily have that race pace in the Haas, so I think Hülkenberg could have a strong race. Gasly, I was impressed with Pierre today. Really, I mean, that car seemed good, but all session long, I think, ended Q2, P4, or maybe Q1, ended P4. Mega impressed with him once again. He seems to be really getting that confidence back. So I'm keeping an eye out for him. Daniel Ricciardo, a quiet session, a little bit like Gasly, was just getting the job done through to Q3. Very happy with that. The two McLarens, well, they're always there, aren't they? enough said. They are clearly best of the rest now. Hopefully they can hang on to some points this weekend. Didn't score any last time out. Alex Albon, P6, seems to be where he's living these days in P6. Not a million miles away from pole position this time, so I'm confident they will keep him next year. Very confident. Lewis Hamilton, P5. Wow. Don't see that very often. An off day for the Brit, however, there were reports he wasn't feeling the best. A few of the drivers, actually, not really used to the bumps on this circuit. A bit extreme in their cars, so he wasn't too happy. Charles Leclerc, you can see down in P4 after the brilliant run of front rows he has had. He'll be a little bit disappointed. However, the gap between that top three, I don't think he can be that disappointed whatsoever. He did, well, I think it's important to factor in as well, to be fair with Leclerc. I was going to move on then, but I think it's important to factor in the fact that questions whether he was even going to make qualifying. So a brilliant job to the Ferrari team for fixing that car after Leclerc's car broke down at the end of practice 3. So I've got to take my hats off to Ferrari there. That's not bad. That's not a bad effort. I was a little bit nervous for Charles, to be totally honest. Max Verstappen, P3. I don't think I expected Red Bull to be that close to the qualifying pole position time. Makes me a little bit more optimistic about their race pace. Often we see with Red Bull, especially with Verstappen, qualifying maybe 5th, maybe 4th, maybe even 3rd, but in the race it really comes alive. And this is a circuit where for the past 2 years Verstappen has been nowhere near the front of the grid. Worked his way up to the podium, okay, a couple of years ago the podium was taken away from him, but it seems to be a circuit he really enjoys. So although at the beginning of the weekend I wasn't too optimistic for Max, I think he could be in with a chance of a victory here. Likewise with Sebastian, he seems to have been on the back foot compared to his teammate in qualifying over the course of 2019. However, of late, has definitely been the lead driver in the Grand Prix. Has got 2 second places in a row now. Second on the grid, only just behind Bottas. A few thousandths of a second. I think we've got an awesome fight for tomorrow. And Valtteri Bottas, the silent assassin. Sorry, Aldas, I'm sticking with the Porridge Master. I will try, but Porridge Master is just too powerful. What a lap. What a session from Valtteri. All the pressure that is on him this weekend. Although the media won't pick up on the fact, can Valtteri hold on? Because it's almost a given that Hamilton's done it. He is going to fight, and that's what I love. It's something we haven't seen from Valtteri over the last few years. As my driver of the day just pops up on screen. Yeah, no surprise who it is. I'm just so glad that all the hate Bottas was getting over the winter, even on my own comments, Bottas should be sacked at the halfway through the season. Ocon should be in that car. Unbelievable. Bottas is not fit to be at Mercedes. The fact he's got it even to round 19 to be the only other driver in the championship hunt, I've got to respect that. Against Lewis Hamilton, I think Bottas has had a really strong year. Yes, there's been peaks and troughs, but I think even this final bit of blood, sweat and tears into this last weekend, I respect that from Valtteri Bottas. So he's got my driver of the day. Pierre Gasly, I've given P2. I think he's really gone under the radar over the last few Grand Prix, so I wanted to give him a bit of love. Ending up, it says 7th on screen. That is a lie. He's not 7th. I've done my graphics there. Apologies. There's always one mistake. That's this week's. P10. Okay, P10's not the best in the world, but considering Danny Kvyat didn't quite scrape through into Q3, I just wanted to give Pierre a bit of love. I think he needs it at the moment. His performances don't, but I was impressed this weekend from Pierre Gasly. Kevin Magnussen, likewise, a P12 and a Haas, I think, is a very good job. And ones to watch. First time ever, I've put Lewis Hamilton in my ones to watch. Starting P5, a championship on the line, you know he's going to be going for it. Alex Albon, starting on a different strategy, different tyres from the front 5. That's going to be interesting. Perez from pit lane. Hulkenberg, we've spoken plenty today about that alternate strategy. And Danny Kvyat, I was impressed with his pace in quali. I'm interested to see what he can do in the race. And finally, I missed it yesterday. A very packed schedule for me yesterday. So, predictions. Thomas Hill, most upvoted. He went for Seb on pole. Lewis on the front row. I don't think any of us expected Valtteri to be as good as he was. First retirement, Stroll turn 1 crashed out. A George Russell P12. Best of the rest, Lando Norris P6. Cranky Yankee, like the name. I've seen you in the comments before. I didn't respect the name before. Irate. Charles Leclerc pole, Sebastian Vettel front row. Grosjean P7 start. Blimey, the love for Grosjean. I'm sorry I missed this one out. I'm really sorry. First retirement, Verstappen, multi-car incident, mainly Hamilton. Crikey. And a Hamilton driver of the day. And Raging Rhino still hasn't changed his name to Racing Rhino. He also went for Leclerc pole, so no one was giving Bottas a chance. But this man has said, Bottas, your race winner. Vettel and Albon on your podium. Leclerc and Hamilton, first lap incident. First retirement, Bottas driver of the day. Norris, best of the rest. So sorry I missed it yesterday. So much love for Grosjean of all the weekends. For me to, well, not forget, but I really struggled to fit it in. I forgot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hopefully I've redeemed myself today. Please forgive me. Thank you very much for watching. Guys, the race is a little bit later on this evening. So if you're in the UK, it's 7 o'clock time, I believe. Apologies, I didn't research where it is everywhere else, but I'm sure you know when it is. Enjoy the race, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you've made it this far and you're new, feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.